I wonder if each of you could give your best answer to when people say, but this should honor you.
For my experience of going to my high school and changing their mascot, and the part of honoring them and making that an excuse for having an inappropriate mascot and then making a mockery out of it was very, very uncomfortable when someone said that we're honoring you. It's very disrespectful and it's very hurtful, and that I feel like it's something the only way you can honor a Native Indigenous community and peoples is that you're going to show that you're going to have education towards the history. You're going to show that you're going to have people that are actually Native and actually know about their culture and go to that school and educate people that don't know about this stuff and that are willing to do that for themselves and for other students and for students that will be attending there sooner. And I feel that's what honoring means if they say if they mean that's what honoring is in their school.
John, do you want to answer this question from Megan and summarize the question as you understand it?
Sure.
I always say racism honors no one. Stereotyping people, or me, does not honor me, and harming people doesn't honor them either. We don't honor people by harming them, and these mascots perpetuate harmful racist stereotypes, and therefore they honor no one, let alone Indigenous people.
Yeah, I'll pick it up too. There is no school that chooses a Native mascot to honor Native people. They never did. And the reason they select a Native mascot is almost always that they've redefined their idea of who a Native person is. And then they want to grab some of those characteristics that they've applied to Native people, which may or may not, in all likelihood, not accurate, and apply it to themselves. So the fierce, the noble, the brave, the warrior, all of these very male, macho, aggressive characteristics are what they're trying to claim for themselves. It has nothing to do. In fact, the whole idea of this mascot phenomenon is about and allowing them the privilege to recreate, as Hollywood has done, as literature has done, as television has done, as Disney has done, recreate an image of a Native person that they can shape for themselves. So it has never been adopted by non-Native people as a means to honor us. It's always the honor thing came as an excuse later when we complain, when we say it doesn't honor us. Yeah, but that's what our intent, and intention is all that matters. And of course, intention isn't all that matters, because if that were the case, then blackface would still exist. The N-word, people would still be using that word to say, yeah, I don't mean anything bad by it, because that's what we hear with the R word. Well, we don't mean that. We don't mean the negative stuff with that. We're using that word to honor you. Well, that's just their excuse that they use. It's never been their intention to honor us.
Can I say something? This is Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. Finally got home from work. So here in Neshaminy, Neshaminy is one of the schools in Pennsylvania that still uses the R word. There's only 2. I can tell you that there's nothing honorable about their use of the R word. It was never meant for honor, because they use that. They were trying to find something that was savage-like, or a warrior, or something bloodthirsty to represent their sports teams. And by just reducing us down to the R word, they've taken away everything else. We're not real people. We're not loving family members. We're not members of society. And we're just archaic images of the past. here in the school district, like I've been fighting since 2012, and I haven't heard from community members who are fighting it, I haven't heard one word of honor. And from the school board, I haven't heard one word of honor. It's all been that we should accept their honor. And when I've spoken to the school board 16 times, they wanted to know where the real Indians are. They want you to look like their image, which is a native in a war bonnet, which doesn't even come from this area of people who they say that who they claim to be honoring. So they can't even get the image right. And I've heard things like, if you don't like it, go take your kid to a reservation and live, on a reservation. I've had threatening phone calls and threats of violence. So there's nothing, not 1 ounce of honor in this community. I haven't heard one good argument. It's just been, this is the way we want it. It's a power play, and it's just the way they want it, and they don't care about the people who they claim to be honoring. And we even had the 3 of the Lenape chiefs wrote a statement to the school board, and the school board refused to read it to the public. I actually had to go and read it to the public. And when I was done reading it, I asked the school board president what he thought, since he wanted real Indians to weigh in on it. And he said, I don't know who those people are. So they don't care. It's about them. It's about honoring themselves and honoring their perception of what Native people are. So I have no empathy or sympathy for people who behave the way they have. And I'm just going to do everything that I can to make the school board uphold their policies. They have policies against discrimination and harassment, and they need to stand by those policies. So.
This is Justin, and I want to say wuli wuni, or thank you for your question. And here's my thing on honor. When you honor someone, that's giving them more opportunities to expand their influence in the community. That's elevating them on a platform that gives them a chance to do more in their life. But when you have an Indian mascot, it does the opposite for us. It actually reduces our opportunities because it confines us to roles that are good for people that are stoic and warlike. It reduces our roles to roles that are supposed to be aggressive. So if I'm trying to be a bouncer, which I'm not, if I'm trying to be a police officer, which I'm not, if I'm trying to be a security guard, which I'm not, it might be helpful. But I'm not trying to be any of those things. There's a whole lot of the rest of society that's really not interested in somebody who's stoic and warlike. And so if you confine me to that stereotype, you are basically saying all these other things that you might want to do, which actually I work in education for my trade, right? Where people, they don't want someone who's aggressive and warlike. They want someone who's nurturing, and supportive and encouraging. Well, that's not in those mascots. So it actually makes it harder for me to have that influence, which is the opposite of honoring me.
To add one more thing to the honor question, in addition to everything that's already been said, over 100 Native American tribes and tribal organizations have official statements and official resolutions stating very clearly and explicitly that they are not honored by mascots, that mascots are dehumanizing, degrading, and harmful, and they need to be eliminated immediately. Over 100 Native American tribes and tribal organizations like the National Congress of American Indians, the Muskogee Creek Nation, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, the Cherokee Nation, Choctaw, Chickasaw, the Nipmuc Nation, the Penobscot Nation, have put out formal resolutions stating very clearly that they are not honored. So if that's not going to convince you that these mascots are not honoring Indigenous people, then nothing will. If you're going to ignore all those voices, those Indigenous voices, those Native American voices, then there's no convincing you. So anyway, we have tons and tons and tons of formal resolutions and statements by tribal nations and tribal organizations that state very clearly that these are not honoring us at all.
Can I add to that as well? So in Neshaminy, over the years, I gave them hundreds of pieces of information, educational pieces, resolutions, any resolutions that I could find from tribes or Native organizations, or even human rights groups in general. And they ignored those, and they didn't provide that information to their community so that the community could be educated. But what they did do was that they searched out anybody who would agree with them. And they found, they hired a non-Native, a white man, to come in and testify against all those Native groups. NCAI has been doing this for decades. The American Indian Movement has been doing this for decades. You've got thousands and thousands of people and, people who are in these organizations and tribes fighting this. But the Neshaminy School District, along with other school districts, will reach out and try to find somebody who will back them up and agree with them. And there's one group out there that is a fringe group that's been around for approximately 6 years that have been investigated. They've done some dirty deeds. They have, they will attack Native people. They'll get communities to attack Native people who speak up. And these are the people that these school districts want to, to support them. The Neshaminy School District actually paid the executive director of the group to come and testify when there were plenty of Native people and Native organizations that could have testified to the fact that what their mascotry is wrong and harmful. But so this is how they show honor to the Native people who they claim to be honoring. They ignore what they say, and they find a white guy and they pay him to talk over us and for us.